Tonight, the Prime Minister promises billions in the face of a trade war as Canada's economy loses tens of thousands of jobs.
We may be in for a rougher ride than we might have expected at first.
New employment numbers worse than expected give a new picture of how Trump's tariffs are taking a toll.
This disruption calls for a bold new approach.
It was the last day of their Portuguese holiday. The Quebec couple killed in the Lisbon tram crash leave behind devastated loved ones.
They were a happy couple. He just retired. He was just starting to enjoy, have fun.
How they're being remembered tonight.
It's out!
And Canadian triumph at the U.S. Open.
What a wild ride. It's been absolutely crazy.
Another Grand Slam title for Gabriela Dabrowski.
From CBC News, this is The National with Erica Johnson.
Thanks for joining us. A clear sign tonight of the strain Canada's economy is under as businesses suffer through blow after tariff blow from the U.S. This country's unemployment rate is up again to levels not seen in years. It has now climbed to 7.1%, a number the Prime Minister is pointing to as proof that his government needs to act. To that end, Mark Carney is announcing a series of new measures that he says will help workers and businesses weather the storm. We'll lay those out in a moment, but we begin with what's been happening to Canadian jobs. As Nisha Patel explains, some sectors are feeling the pain much more than others.
As the trade war drags on, Canadian workers are feeling the fallout. From manufacturing to transportation, industries hit hardest by tariffs are also getting hit hard by job losses.
We may be in for a rougher ride than we might have expected at first.
Canada's economy lost 66,000 jobs in August, mostly part-time positions. The unemployment rate now sits at 7.1%, the highest level since 2016 outside of the pandemic, and worse than economists were expecting.
The bad news is spreading here.
Even industries that aren't as exposed to tariffs are shedding jobs, like professional and technical services and education.
I think employers, businesses in general, they're very concerned about the uncertainty that we're facing.
Companies are so much slower to hire. They're being a lot pickier with what they're looking for.
Dana Thaberge is a recruiter for skilled trades and manufacturing. She's seen a steady decline in hiring this year.
The people that are calling me looking for work, especially in the trade sector, there is absolutely a lot more of a desperation to what they are asking for.
Much of the pain is concentrated in Ontario's manufacturing hubs. Windsor now has an unemployment rate of 11.1%. In Oshawa, it's climbed to 9%. Here, General Motors is slowing production at this plant because of tariffs, forcing one of its parts suppliers to lay off 250 workers.
Basically, our workforce really reflects our community. So all ages, all ethnicities are represented. And, it really is heart-wrenching to see them lose their position.
With no resolution to the trade war in sight, workers may have to navigate a tougher job market in the months ahead. The U.S. job market is stalling too, adding just 22,000 jobs last month, well below the 80,000 that economists were expecting.
Nisha, that's 2 weak job reports in a row. So take us through what that could mean for a possible interest rate cut.
Well, the odds that the Bank of Canada will take action have gone up. There is still one inflation report that's due out, and that could be a deciding factor for the bank. But with growing job losses and a slowing economy, many economists predict an interest rate cut when the central bank meets in just 2 weeks.
Okay, Nisha Patel in Toronto. Helping workers retrain for new jobs is part of the federal government's new plan to make Canada's economy more resilient. Lindsay Duncombe walks us through a suite of measures aimed at struggling and worried employees and businesses.
How are you?
Hi.
Nice to meet you.
In the face of tough job numbers and with the U.S. trade deal nowhere in sight, Prime Minister Mark Carney released a laundry list of ways the government plans to help.
This disruption calls for a bold new approach.
Specifically, a program to help up to 50,000 workers learn new skills, a policy to ensure the government buys Canadian goods, loans for businesses, and more cash for industries hit hard by tariffs.
And we're going to support Canadian workers so they can drive Canada's economic transformation.
Across sectors, the reaction? Gratitude mixed with worry that it may not be enough.
We need to see an enhancement of employment insurance beyond what was announced today. We know only 2 in 5 workers currently qualify for EI.
The steel industry says those Buy Canadian rules should apply to provinces and municipalities too.
It's one thing to require domestic steel, but it should be procured in Canada, fabricated in Canada, engineered in Canada according to our standards.
As for canola farmers facing crippling Chinese tariffs, Carney wants to spend more than $300 million to turn crops into fuel sold at home and is expanding loan programs. The industry says great, but
I guess we can't borrow our way out of this crisis. It really does need to be resolved at a political level.
The opposition calls the plan, quote, a big show about nothing.
He's gotten absolutely nothing done this summer, other than shuffle a lot of papers and hold a lot of meetings while Canadians lose their jobs, can't afford food, and are unable to buy homes.
Now, the cost of all of this support will add up. Next month's budget should show how the government intends to pay for it all. Labor groups are bracing for public sector cuts that could mean more workers needing more help. Lindsay Duncombe, CBC News, Vancouver.
Now let's bring in the host of Power and Politics, David Cochrane. David, Canada is facing substantial challenges right now. So how substantial are these measures?
Well, look, the scale and cost of what Trump is doing becomes more apparent with each new announcement. It's billions and billions and billions in supports and restructuring, and thousands and thousands and thousands of Canadians losing their jobs. So today, it's the building blocks for a support program for which to launch this wide-scale industrial restructuring. And in many ways, this only really deals with the acute problems of the moment. There's a very real possibility that challenges get worse post the big CUSMA review, because I think at this point, it's kind of naive to think that Donald Trump goes through that whole process without trying to fundamentally alter the rules of continental trade in a seismic way. So the signal from today is that this won't be quick and it won't be easy.
The government, as we know, is preparing its fall budget and it's looking for savings in the public service. So how does the spending fit into the bigger picture?
Yeah, the budget's going to be a blend of austerity and investment. Austerity, in the way this government talks, means sort of reducing core government operational spending to free up money to do this economic restructuring, this stimulus spending to help businesses adapt. Basically, spending needs to deliver economic output, not just civil servant jobs in Ottawa, unless they are part of the core mission of government. So this is going to require a big shift in how they do things, and Trump's not going to make it easy.
Thanks for this, David Cochrane in Ottawa.
Thank you.
Prime Minister Mark Carney also put another key Justin Trudeau policy on hold. The EV mandate forcing Canadian automakers to sell more electric vehicles was supposed to kick in next year. Not anymore. Evan Dyer tells us why and why reaction is divided.
Prime Minister Mark Carney says tariffs have changed the situation for Canadian automakers.
We have an auto sector, because of the massive change in U.S. trade policy, is under extreme pressure.
So he's pausing the Trudeau-era mandate that next year would require them to make at least 1 in 5 cars they sell electric.
They've got enough on their plate right now. So we're taking that off.
Carney says the government will launch a 60-day review of the mandate. Car makers won't have to meet the quota next year. Environmentalists say it's the second major environmental retreat following Carney's decision to scrap the carbon tax.
To be honest, we don't have a clear indication of the extent to which this government, under Prime Minister Mark Carney, remains committed to fighting climate change.
The auto industry says pressure from Washington made the change necessary.
We need the White House to change course. We need to invest in ourselves. I'm glad that we punted right now, but I'm also glad that we're still committed to it.
But not everyone is convinced the industry really is that committed.
If you're serious about selling electric vehicles, you should be introducing models, right? And they have it.
This EV enthusiast says some car makers have electric models on sale only in certain parts of Canada or sell cars in Europe that they don't offer in Canada at all.
I think that the companies have dragged their feet, so giving them more time to drag their feet, how could that possibly speed up innovation? It's just going to slow it down.
Canadian automakers say they're only seeking a pause, not a change of direction.
All the Canadian companies are absolutely committed to electrification because we see our strengths there in 5-10 years.
Two provinces, Quebec and British Columbia, still have EV mandates on the books, but the federal and provincial rebates that used to encourage buyers are mostly gone. The federal government says it's considering offering a new one. EV supporters say the delay is giving buyers a reason to hold off on their purchase in the hope they can get the same car at a lower price by waiting. Evan Dyer, CBC News, Ottawa.
Now to Lisbon and what more we're learning tonight about that deadly tram crash. We now know a couple from Quebec is among the 16 people who were killed. They were there on holiday celebrating a birthday. Chris Brown is in Lisbon and spoke to one of their family members.
The full international scope of the tramcar crash is coming into focus as a memorial at the accident site grows, and Portuguese authorities confirm the dead includes 11 foreigners. Among them, André Bergeron and Blandine Do of Quebec.
He was on vacation in Portugal for his 70th birthday, and his wife invited him as a gift, for his birthday. They were a happy couple. He just retired. He was just starting to enjoy, have fun.
Eric Bergeron is André's brother. The couple were prominent archaeologists who worked together at the Quebec Conservation Centre in Quebec City. Wednesday was to be the last day of their Portuguese holiday, and when news of the crash broke, Bergeron says he feared the worst.
I continued to text him, text his wife, say, are you there? Are you there? Are you okay? Delivered. So, okay, the phone is on. They don't respond. Something's wrong. And their daughter contacted the B&B where they were residing, and they were supposed to fly out. And they said, well, they didn't come back to pick up their luggage.
Then came the call from Global Affairs with the terrible news.
I'm not processing it yet, emotionally speaking, but I've been up and down crying and not crying. So my two nieces are shattered, of course. Imagine you lose your two parents in one shot, bang, like that.
The early working theory is that the cable that guided the two funicular rail cars up the steep cobblestone streets snapped. Those who were killed or hurt were on the tram that was descending when it flew off the rails at high speed and hit a building. Bergeron says he met with investigators Friday, but they wouldn't reveal much about the cause of the crash.
They don't want to disclose too much. It's still ongoing. It's early days. I think that investigation will last months.
In a release, Quebec's Culture Ministry called the couple pillars of the restoration community, and it said André Bergeron was considered a pioneer in his field. Chris Brown, CBC News, Lisbon.
We're also learning more tonight about the man who police say went on a stabbing rampage in Manitoba yesterday, killing his sister and injuring 7 others on a First Nation. As Cameron McIntosh tells us, the man was out on bail.
As RCMP investigators continue to comb over 2 crime scenes, court records show 26-year-old Tyrone Simard was out on bail, facing assault and mischief charges, and court ordered to stay away from his 18-year-old sister Marina, who police say he killed while injuring 7 others in a stabbing rampage in Hollow Water First Nation.
You know, it's affected everyone.
Randy Ducharme knows the family and the other victims.
There's so much sorrow in the community right now, and the bewilderment and shock, and just not knowing how to deal with it.
Police are trying to determine why Simard attacked. Court records also show he had diminished cognitive abilities and long-standing issues with alcohol. The attack, similar to a mass stabbing 3 years ago in James Smith Cree Nation in Saskatchewan. An inquest there found a lack of mental health resources and police response time to be factors. Hollow Water also has few mental health resources and is an hour from the nearest RCMP station.
My heart is with the community of Hollow Water.
Assembly of First Nations National Chief Cindy Woodhouse-Nepanak has been calling for greater mental health supports and policing on First Nations.
I just think every community in this country, whether you're in a First Nation or not, deserves to have public safety as a priority.
In this case, there was a multi-officer response. Simard died an hour after the first report of a stabbing. when he collided head-on with the vehicle of an RCMP officer en route to the scene. That officer seriously injured.
She didn't stray away. She stopped that threat. She's a hero. I can't believe it. It's amazing.
Manitoba's Independent Investigations Unit, which investigates police-involved deaths, is looking into the crash. A vigil for the victims will be held on Monday. Cameron McIntosh, CBC News, Winnipeg.
The woman who calls herself the Queen of Canada will remain in custody until a bail hearing on Monday after appearing in court today.
Remember, innocent until proven guilty.
Romana Didillo is the leader of a group that believes laws don't apply to them. She was arrested Wednesday along with 15 others in Richmond, Saskatchewan, after the RCMP raided a former school they'd been living in. They were released, but Didillo and the owner of the school were quickly rearrested and charged for allegedly communicating with each other when they were ordered not to. In the Middle East, as Israel's military advances closer to the heart of Gaza City, it took down a prominent high-rise building, accusing Hamas of using it. The first salvo battered the high-rise. 15 minutes later, a second brought it down. Ahead of the strike, Israel warned people nearby to evacuate. As much as they bomb and as much as they destroy, we are attached to this town, says Abu Mohammed al-Ghazali. I'm not leaving Gaza. Either way, we are dead. What can we do? Strikes elsewhere over the past day killed a total of 27 people, according to local medics. Israel is now letting more aid into Gaza, but after months of severe restrictions, the rush for food is desperate. In Israel, protesters were critical of the Gaza offensive.
Seal the deal now and bring back all the hostages and put an end to this endless war.
They marked 700 days since Hamas's brutal October 7th attack, nearly 2 years of unimaginable suffering. Russia's president is rejecting a proposal that would see Western troops on the ground to help secure Ukraine in the event of a ceasefire. Vladimir Putin rejecting it with a threat. If some troops appear there, especially now during military operations, he said, these will be legitimate targets for destruction. After meeting in Paris earlier this week, 26 allies agreed to contribute troops to Ukraine after the fighting ended as a security guarantee. A rash of vandalism is targeting traffic cameras in Canada's largest city.
As soon as it gets cut down, people just continue speeding.
Speed cams, safety essential or municipal cash grab? Next. Plus, queen of the hardcourt, a Canadian tennis star celebrates her first major triumph since undergoing treatment for breast cancer.
Thank you for sticking by me. Thank you for the support.
Gabriela Dabrowski's inspiring road to the U.S. Open Doubles Championship. And later, a teenager's tubing adventure becomes a surprise salvation for a baby beaver.
Pulled out my hand and it just climbed right up onto it.
The cute rodent rescue in our moment. We're back in 2.
This, in fact, was the largest single-site enforcement operation in the history of Homeland Security investigations.
That's U.S. Homeland Security after conducting an immigration raid at a sprawling Hyundai factory in Georgia. 475 people were detained, most from South Korea. Officials say they were working in the U.S. illegally. The South Korean government has expressed concern and regret and says it is dispatching embassy and consular staff to the site to protect the rights of its citizens. They're meant to slow down drivers, but speed enforcement cameras have become the target. In Toronto, vandals have repeatedly cut down the same camera. Philip Lishanak now with new video showing the vandalism and why the cameras are dividing some communities.
Gone in 60 seconds. A video appears to show a man chopping down a speed camera in Toronto's West End back in May. A resident installed his own camera to catch vandals in the act. The speed camera has been vandalized 6 times in less than a year, each time the city putting it back up. This one camera has made more than $7 million in revenue for the city in fines, which makes it a big target. In another incident, this video captured from a nearby apartment in April shows a man calmly walking away, the camera cut from its pole again.
I think it's a fight against, like, you know, government bureaucracy and like people getting taxed and getting tickets.
This year alone, Toronto officials say there have been 325 incidents of speed camera vandalism, ranging from spray-painted lenses to cameras being completely destroyed. And it's not just in Toronto. There are similar reports across the province. 3 years ago, Ontario gave municipalities the power to install automated speed enforcement cameras. Vehicle owners get a ticket in the mail. While some have taken out their frustrations on them, surveys and studies say the cameras have made roads safer.
It has reminded them to be cautious of their speed, and perhaps they didn't realize that they were speeding, but now they do, and they're going to be extra careful in that area.
Others say the cameras add to the cost of living.
My main motivation.
This city councillor in Belleville wants the cameras to be in school zones only.
Times are hard now anyway in our economy. And when you have a $150 fine coming out of their groceries that now does not exist.
It's a divisive topic. Some Ontario municipalities have paused their camera programs after public complaints.
I do also agree that it is a bit of a cash grab, but at the same time, like, I do feel like it makes people drive better in the neighborhood I live in.
As for the vandalism that's happened in May, police say they're aware of the video and are investigating. Philip Shannock, CBC News, Toronto.
A Canadian tennis star and her partner have won the U.S. Open doubles title.
What a wild ride. It's been absolutely crazy.
How the big win caps off a tough year for Gabriela Dabrowski. Next. Plus, a combative U.S. Health Secretary gets grilled by senators over vaccine policies.
You're interrupting me, and sir, you're a charlatan. That's what you are.
We'll dissect the raucous 3-hour standoff. Also, for those impacted by wildfires, the return to school can be difficult.
All your clothes, your stuffies, your games, your video games are gone.
The classroom casualties of Canada's devastating wildfires, when The National breaks down the stories shaping our world. Next. Canadian tennis star Felix Auger-Aliassime's run at the U.S. Open is over. He lost in 4 sets to world number 1 Jannik Sinner. This is the 25-year-old Canadian's best Grand Slam run since 2021. Sinner will now look to defend his title Sunday. Another Canadian had a big win on the tennis court today. Ottawa's Gabriela Dabrowski and her New Zealand partner Erin Routtlife won their second career U.S. Open women's doubles title. Jamie Strachan now with more on the victory and the health hurdle Dabrowski faced to get here.
It's out! And they've done it!
And with that, another Grand Slam title for Ottawa's Gabriela Dabrowski. Alongside her partner Erin Routtlife, who lives in Montreal but represents her native New Zealand, the duo knocked off the top-seeded team to capture the U.S. Open Women's Doubles Championship.
We've been through so much together. I feel extremely grateful to be standing here as a champion alongside you today.
It's the second U.S. Open title for the pair and Dabrowski's first since undergoing treatment for breast cancer.
It means the world, so thank you for sticking by me. Thank you for the support.
Dabrowski has also won 2 Grand Slams in mixed doubles.
Dabrowski! The half volley!
She also won a bronze medal in mixed doubles at the 2024 Paris Olympics.
Doubles court.
The 33-year-old never had much success in singles, but those close to the game say her style is perfect for doubles.
She has such good hands. Just covers the court really well, and her communications is really good, and that's a key thing in doubles, isn't it?
He Boulay points out doubles tennis requires a unique blend of strategy and shot making.
You got to be quick, obviously, and you have to have a lot of courage.
The win caps a difficult year for Dabrowski. Since her diagnosis in 2024, she had 2 separate surgeries during a 3-month break from the sport.
any more time that I got on the tennis court was sort of a bonus. And so I started to just enjoy all the moments of training. I started to enjoy the moments where I was competing.
Making her appreciate every opportunity the game has given her. Jamie Strachan, CBC News, Toronto.
After years injured on the sidelines, the Montreal Canadiens have traded the contract of longtime goalie Carey Price to the San Jose Sharks. Price is in the final year of his 8-year contract, but the 38-year-old hasn't played in a game for the Habs since 2022, when he suffered a significant knee injury. He's spent the entirety of his NHL career in Montreal. Now it's time to dig deeper into the stories shaping our world. For millions of children across Canada, this week featured normal back-to-school jitters. But for some, the September routine has already been interrupted by wildfires.
Schools are still having a difficult time contacting families who had evacuated at some point over the summer.
The impact of a summer of smoke that continues to linger. But first,
how can you be that ignorant?
U.S. lawmakers spar with Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy during a tense congressional hearing.
We are the sickest country in the world. That's why we have to fire people at CDC.
And for Democrats and Republicans alike, center stage was the administration's actions on vaccines. Andrew Chang, host of CBC News About That, takes us through the clashes and breaks down why vaccines remain such a contentious issue.
There were two moments within the first 15 minutes of Robert F. Kennedy Jr. squaring off against the Senate committee that really set the stage for what was about to unfold over the next 3 hours.
Prior authorization, information blocking.
Secretary Kennedy interrupted just 2 minutes into his opening remarks, reportedly by a woman in a wheelchair who had to be escorted out.
The committee will come to order.
And just before that, the ranking member on the committee, Democratic Senator Ron Wyden, effectively accusing Kennedy of lying before he had even said a word.
Mr. Chairman, and I think it is unfortunate that I have to do this. I would ask now that the committee formally swear in Robert Kennedy as a witness.
To be clear, this is, at best, unusual, at worst, insulting, to ask for a sitting secretary to be put under oath in this setting.
Senator Wyden, I will personally object and will reject your request. We will treat this witness as we treat all of the other administration witnesses who come before us.
So, no oath. But you see how hostile this was about to become, and not just along conventional political lines, Democrats against Republicans. Senators from both parties were demanding answers.
You said you're going to empower the scientists at HHS to do their job. I'd just like to see evidence where you've done that.
Secretary Kennedy, in your confirmation hearings, you promised to uphold the highest standards for vaccines. Since then, I've grown deeply concerned.
Secretary Kennedy is dead set on making it harder for children to get vaccines and that kids are going to die because of it.
You're interrupting me, and sir, you're a charlatan. That's what you are.
How can you be that ignorant?
I think that most people would probably see the hearing and see that Kennedy was not able to answer very pointed questions about the job that he's doing as the head of the Department of Health and Human Services. But I think there was another group of Americans, including President Trump, who saw that hearing as another example of Kennedy battling the elites.
If Democrats were keen to put Kennedy under oath, it may have been because they say he lied back in November when he was first being considered for the job.
Mr. Kennedy, you said, quote, if vaccines are working for somebody, I'm not going to take them away.
If vaccines are working for somebody, I'm not going to take them away.
No exceptions, no ifs, ands, or buts. You would not take away vaccines from anyone who wanted them.
But Kennedy is arguably doing the opposite. Just last week, he announced that COVID vaccines are no longer approved for most healthy people under 65. Vaccine makers like Pfizer announced this as well, and it builds on a broader campaign to limit who gets the vaccine.
I couldn't be more pleased to announce that as of today, The COVID vaccine for healthy children and healthy pregnant women has been removed from the CDC recommended immunization schedule.
Now, Kennedy still says he's not taking anyone's vaccines away.
Anybody can get the booster.
I'm sorry?
Anybody can get it, Senator.
Anybody. So you're saying that is now the official rule of HHS. Anybody is eligible to get a booster by just walking into the pharmacy.
It's not recommended for healthy people.
No.
So they're both right in a way. Anybody can get the booster in the United States, but what's changed is that depending on what state you live in, and now depending on what your age is too, you may not be able to get it for free because it's no longer mandated. And when otherwise it costs potentially hundreds of dollars for the shot, Democrats say that amounts to taking the vaccine away from people who are no longer eligible but who still want it.
I'm not taking them away from people, Senator.
It takes it away if you can't get it from your pharmacist.
Well, I never promised that I was going to recommend products with which there is no indication. I'm not taking them away from anybody.
Secretary,
you want me to indicate a product for which there is no clinical data?
Senator,
is that what you want?
But let's try to understand Kennedy's position here, because he did explain it a bit more when answering a Republican senator.
Right now, we're dealing with completely different circumstances, where the virus has mutated, where it's much less dangerous, where there's a lot of natural immunity.
And this is all true. There is much more immunity in the US population than there once was. Just think of how many people have already gotten sick. So, he argues, we shouldn't be giving vaccines to otherwise healthy people, especially without rerunning clinical trials for each new formulation. But he's leaving out an important distinction, because COVID vaccines are more seasonal now, like the flu. And in those cases, labs don't generally just rerun clinical trials like he's suggesting that they do, because those can take years. And if you went completely back to the drawing board with every new strain, you would just miss the boat every time. So instead, labs study whether new vaccines are producing the right antibodies for the right strain. That's considered good enough, and around it went.
I'm not taking them away. Everybody can get access to them.
no, they can't walk into a pharmacy the way they could last month.
We are the sickest country in the world. That's why we have to fire people at CDC.
Kennedy has stated, for the record, that he considers the U.S. Centers for Disease Control the most corrupt health agency in the country. Maybe even the most corrupt government agency, period. Drug pushers beholden to Big Pharma. But some Republican senators in particular seem to question whether the changes Kennedy has made in public health since becoming health secretary are more to blame.
I support vaccines. I'm a doctor. Vaccines work. I've grown deeply concerned. The public has seen measles outbreaks, leadership in the National Institute of Health questioning the use of mRNA vaccines, the recently confirmed director of Centers for Disease Control and Prevention fired.
What he's referring to in that last part there is Kennedy's decision to fire Susan Menares, who was confirmed as head of the CDC just 1 month earlier.
Hi, I'm Robert F. Kennedy Jr., your HHS secretary, and I'm here with Dr. Susan Menares, who is our new CDC director.
And she seemed like she'd be there for a good long time. At her swearing in, Kennedy boasted of her unimpeachable scientific credentials. Then the hammer dropped. In an opinion piece in the Wall Street Journal, Menares says she was fired for insisting on rigorous scientific review. She explains in a bit more detail further down. I was told to pre-approve the recommendations of a vaccine advisory panel newly filled with people who have publicly expressed anti-vaccine rhetoric. Kennedy disputes this, says it's not true, but she's nodding to two things there. The first is that this Advisory Committee on Immunization Practices, or ACIP for short, it's a committee that advises the CDC on vaccines. It's a key role in setting vaccine policy. And they're scheduled to meet later this month to review and maybe reconsider a number of existing approved vaccines.
You said that ACIP is an independent panel after you stocked it with your picks.
In June, you fired all 17 committee members who are respected scientists and doctors. You replace them with non-experts, vaccine skeptics, and conspiracy theorists.
If we put people who are paid witnesses for people suing vaccines, that actually seems like a conflict of interest. Real quickly, do you agree with that?
No, I don't. It may be a bias, and that bias, if disclosed, is okay.
Are you aware that another one of these new members, Dr. Levy, wrote that, quote, evidence is mounting and indisputable that mRNA vaccines cause serious harm, including death, especially among young people? Yes or no? Are you aware that he said that?
I wasn't aware he said it, but I think I agree with it.
You agree with it? It's not true. It wasn't true when he said it, and it's not true when you said it.
Well, let's sort through what's true and what's not. It is true that Kennedy swept out every single member of this vaccine advisory panel.
There are panels that are made up of outside individuals, outside experts who come in and set policies. In the past, those people, almost all of them, have severe conflicts of interest.
That's not true. At least not according to a report Kennedy himself has cited in making this case. Now, to be fair, this 20-year-old report did find lapses in procedure. Paperwork errors in the financial disclosures of almost every single special government employee it considered. It also found most of these employees had unresolved potential conflicts of interest, and a big chunk of them hadn't received the proper ethics training. But that ultimately, when it came to actual conflicts themselves, only 3% of special government employees voted on particular matters when their waivers prohibited such participation.
He believed there was conflict of interest on that panel. Now, that's something that public health experts had pushed back on. This panel, they meet several times a year, and they generally disclose conflicts of interest at the start of the meeting.
Then we get to the question of claims made by people on Kennedy's new vaccine panel.
Are you aware that one of the people you put on the panel, Dr. Robert Malone, claimed that the commonly used mRNA vaccine, quote, causes a form of AIDS and can damage children's, quote, brains, their heart, their immune system, and their ability to have children?
Senator, are you saying that the mRNA vaccine has never been associated with myocarditis or pericarditis in teenagers?
I am simply...
Is that what you're trying to tell us?
I am simply trying to say that the people that you have put on that panel, after firing the entire...
You're evading the question.
No, I'm asking the questions here,
You're
Mr.
evading
Kennedy.
that question.
I'm asking the questions,
I
Mr.
asked
Kennedy.
you a question.
I'm asking the questions for Mr. Kennedy on behalf of parents and schools and teachers all over the United States of America who deserve so much better than your leadership.
There was this stark display this week where Washington, Oregon, and California announced a coalition to make recommendations to counter what the Trump administration has been doing. On the other hand, Florida announced it would become the first in the nation to end all school vaccine mandates. These changes, some states sort of breaking from the federal government, it's unprecedented, and some public health experts fear it could cause confusion among patients and doctors, etc.
For the record, there are documented harms and injuries from COVID vaccines, including heart issues in rare cases, as Kennedy points out. But study after study has shown the number of lives saved by the vaccine vastly outnumber those lost to it.
There's lots of research out there that shows that the fact that millions upon millions of people got these vaccines, it is proven both in terms of the scientific experiments and in terms of like real world practical assessments of what's going on, that these vaccines do work.
What's important to remember about these hearings is that they can sometimes, maybe often, be more spectacle than substance. Each senator has a fairly strict 5-minute time limit to ask questions. And because it's not always easy to get a straight answer in that time, senators often speak far more than they listen. And the message, from Democrats at least, that RFK Jr. was a bad pick, that Republicans should feel bad for picking him. And by the looks of it, at least some Republicans agree. What is unsaid in all of this is how this all reflects on the man who put Kennedy's name forward in the first place.
Now, on Thursday, Donald Trump backed his Secretary of Health and Human Services. Then today, the U.S. president was asked about the state of Florida's move to end all vaccine mandates in schools. And Trump said that some vaccines work. He cited the one for polio, and he said they are called uncontroversial and that those should be available and people should be able to get them. After the break, back-to-school plans disrupted after a summer of devastating wildfires.
That was his school, that he had his friends there.
An unexpected readjustment for students and parents. Next. As wildfires become more common and more intense, in Canada there are calls for fire preparedness plans to include school disruptions.
Even 1 day, 2 days, 1 week of losing a school for children is a huge gap.
As Diana Sumanak-Johnson tells us, for some, this new school year comes with a different kind of uncertainty and anxiety.
Like all your clothes, your stuffies, your games, your video games are gone.
A tough conversation for any parent to have with their child. But on top of that, the school 8-year-old Reese attended, Cabot Academy, was destroyed by the wildfires.
He's really upset because that was his school, that he had his friends there.
The start of the school year, a key component of a healthy childhood, is another casualty of Canada's devastating wildfires. Even if school buildings are still standing, the effects of the fires can be felt.
We're hearing from members across the country that the schools are still having a difficult time contacting families who had evacuated at some point over the summer.
Wildfire smoke is also a problem for schools.
And so when it comes to monitoring air quality, and it comes to forecasting air quality based on the movement of wildfire smoke, that will just as much now become part of planning considerations as is blizzard forecasting in the winter.
Any national federal plans must involve figuring out what happens to schools that are in fire-affected areas, says this professor of emergency preparedness.
Even 1 day, 2 days, 1 week of losing a school for children is a huge gap, it's a huge loss. We want to minimize that.
So I touched Broadway.
In Newfoundland, Reese Chandler is excited to see his new school, but his father says he hopes they keep all the kids and teachers whose school was destroyed together and
bring in some child psychologists, bring in some behavioral therapists, because we're going to have those problems. I foresee that.
As kids in communities affected by wildfires face the new normal start of the school year that is not normal at all. Diana Sumanak-Johnson, CBC News, Toronto.
In Newfoundland and Labrador, there are still 4 active fires. The Canadian Red Cross says wildfires in that province have forced more than 7,100 people from their homes. Coming up, a baby beaver gets a second shot at life.
It was so tired because I bet it's been probably struggling in the water for quite a while.
How a family fun day turned into a rodent rescue mission. Next. This is Connor Belanger. That furry bundle is a baby beaver he rescued moments prior from the Cowichan River on Vancouver Island. Connor heard the baby scrambling to stay afloat and helped her get out of the water and to a wildlife recovery facility. Tonight, his heartwarming rescue is our moment.
We were floating down the Cowichan River. I heard some squeaking. I'd never heard anything like that before.
There was a baby beaver that was struggling in the rapids. I still put out my hand and it just climbed right up onto it. It was so tired because I bet it's been probably struggling in the water for quite a while.
How cute it is.
Its chest, little teeny tiny chest, just heaving up and down.
It was so snuggly. When it would kind of open its little eyes, it would just look around and look up at us and then snuggle in more and go back to sleep. It's such a Canadian experience, to actually get to hold a beaver kit. We drove to the North Island Wildlife Recovery Association, and they handed over a little beaver.
I just wanted to save it because, like, I love animals so much. It was just amazing that it survived that long.
What a story. And Connor's dad pinned the location. So in about a year, when that baby beaver is stronger, she'll be released where she was found. And apparently staff at the animal rescue shelter say the baby beaver is doing well, and they have named her Timber, although they probably pronounce it Timber. For all of us here at The National, thank you for being with us. You can watch anywhere, anytime on the free CBC News app and subscribe to The National's YouTube channel. I'm Erica Johnson in Vancouver. Take care.